Carly.
Hi.
Oh my gosh.
It's like
We're doing it.
we're on the mic, but
Yeah.
this time it's not in the spin room.
It's not in the spin room and it's one-on-one.
Yes.
With the exception of Taryn here filming us. But thank you so much for taking the time out of today and for also like lending me this space. I think when I started the Dear Sunny podcast, you were one of the first few people that I reached out to, and you have been so instrumental in making this dream come true. So thank you.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you.
Like it really is an honor. It's amazing to see your journey, though I know it is just beginning. Like this is just beginning. I feel the power and the impact that you're making already. So it's really, really exciting to see this journey that you're on. And I'm honored to be here. Thanks for having me on the show too. Different perspective here.
You know, I know. And I was, I already told you I was sleuthing before we started recording today. And I've just like for the past couple weeks when I knew that you were going to be on. And we all know Carly as, you know, the CEO, the amazing mother, the owner of Good Vibe Studios, the owner of Good Vibe Media. Like you are just such a staple in this community. And we hear about your business, which is beautiful. And you've created such an incredible space and you are incredible at what you do. But I'm really interested in hearing about who Carly is as like the human being Carly. I feel like I think we're always like, look at what I'm doing right now, which is fantastic. Like I love it, and this is a big reason why I wanted you on the show, because so many women look up to you, but I think more importantly, a lot of women turn to you. And that is an incredible quality that I've admired about you for a very long time. So and you have an incredible story, and I know this because I know you personally, but the fact that you are willing to come on and share your story authentically takes courage. It also is just going to be a breath of fresh air in this world that we live in that is just so topical all the time and face value. So just thank you. I cannot thank you enough.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
Yeah.
Like tears are already coming, man. Shit. We should have brought a few tissue boxes in here.
You know,
something tells me we're going to need
use
them.
our like shacket sleeves.
I know.
And
thank God we got them.
And yeah, so we were talking, we're like, we're going to be really comfortable for today's thing, but we're filming this now. It's September. It's still 100 degrees.
We're faking it.
But listen, it's fall, okay? It's fall. And by the time this episode comes out, these outfits will make sense.
They will all make sense.
They will all make
We're
sense.
manifesting cooler weather right now by wearing these jackets.
Sweet Jesus. I mean, you know, you've seen the signs in Scottsdale, like with the street signs of like McDonald's like melting off. Like, oh my God. But anyway, so we're manifesting right now.
Yes.
But I really wanted to start off I want to know more about little Carly. I think that in my own healing journey, getting acquainted with little Tessa has been so important. So tell me more about little Carly. Like, what was she into? Like, what did you do at recess? Like, who was your friend? Like, who was little Carly?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Rewinding the tapes right now.
Yes.
Well, I am the oldest of my siblings. I do have an older half sibling. My dad had a daughter with his first marriage, but we never lived in the same state. So I was the oldest with my like full blood siblings and the oldest of all my cousins. And my family was really, really tight. So, you know, we spent a lot of time together. So I was always this kind of like ringleader of the kids. You know what I mean?
I see
like, it makes sense, you know, why I'm in the position that I'm in now, because I've had my whole life to really flex those muscles and those skill sets. But I have my older half sister, of course, Libeth, and then I have a younger sister and a younger brother. And my younger sister, she's only 13 months younger than me. So her and I mean, we were like attached at the hip.
I had no idea.
Yeah, she was just my sidekick, but she is special needs. When she was born, she was diagnosed with Turner syndrome and a handful of other like genetic abnormalities. When she was born, the doctors did not think she was going to live for longer than 3 weeks. So my mom really, and which is crazy because like even in the ultrasounds and leading up to her birth, like they didn't catch anything, which is kind of bizarre. She was born a little early, but it wasn't until she was born they were like, oh my gosh, there are so many things wrong with this baby. There's no way she's going to survive. Well, she's still alive today.
Oh,
and she
my
is
Lord.
thriving. But
how old is she today?
So she's 33. Yeah, because she's just a year younger than me. And she is nonverbal. She's pretty low functioning. So she needs support with, you know, basically everything in life. But she honestly is like, anybody that knows her would describe her as just literally a ray of sunshine. Like she has a permanent smile on her face. Like she does not know how to frown. Like she really doesn't. She just like is just this very, though she can't speak and she can't articulate her words, she is very observant and she takes in everything that she sees, she hears, she experiences, she feels. And you can just tell like she is just this little ray of light and just a miracle walking here on earth. So
I know.
That's
3 weeks and now 33.
Yeah.
Okay, so for those who don't know, like what is Turner syndrome?
So, I mean, I honestly wish I knew the actual definition. I don't.
I mean, I know they're very complex.
Yes, very complex. And she was so much more than that. Like she actually, when she doesn't have the corpus callosum, it's the part of the brain that connects the left and right lobes of the brain. So that was something that was like very abnormal. She had like she had like 6 toes, 6 fingers, like she has a cleft palate. There's just like some physical features that were definitely abnormal that obviously translate to her, you know, disabilities. But she was on feeding tubes. I remember when I was young, she was on feeding tubes until she was probably like 7 or 8, and she always looked like a lot younger. So when my brother was born when I was 7. I was just about to turn 7. And so there was a really like long time period where everyone thought that my brother and her were twins because she didn't have the hormones to help her grow
So
at a
she
normal
looked
rate.
much younger.
She looks much younger. So, but then, you know, during like my middle school years is when she started taking some hormones and she started like developing, you know, more. But yeah, I mean, and honestly, like growing up, like I didn't know anything different.
Yeah.
I really didn't, because she was like my sidekick. Like we did everything together. My mom dressed us in twinning outfits, big bows and like the whole thing.
Love it. I'm sure she loved it too.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yes.
We were 2 peas in a pod, and I did not think there was anything abnormal at all because it was my normal, you know? And it wasn't until I started to get older and I like would have friends over, and then, or like we would go out to dinner or something and I would see people or like younger kids just staring at her. And I do remember getting this feeling like, why are they staring? Like what are they staring at? Like why?
Yeah, 'cause you didn't, it was all normal to you.
It was. Yeah. Totally. So
how did that make you feel?
I think I remember just like curious at first, like, okay, what is it? Like, why? Like, why are they staring? You know, like, why is this weird to them? And then, you know, I remember having friends that would ask questions like, what's wrong with your sister? And I'm like, well, you know, again, it's like, nothing's wrong with her.
Yeah.
She's different, but.
Which is also beautiful. I think that's a very beautiful way of looking at it.
Oh, for sure.
She's, like, nothing's wrong. It's just that she's different.
She's different.
She was born differently.
Well, totally. And it allowed for an opportunity for my mom to have these conversations with me at a young age, which honestly was quite a blessing in my life, because it really opened my eyes and my perspective to another way of living, which then, I mean, it's kind of how I got into this industry of film.
Yes. I sleuthed and I found that story. Okay. Don't you worry. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I mean, it all leads to like, it's like the purpose. I mean, really, she has I don't think she even knows this, like how much of an impact she has had on my life and my perspective and just how I show up every day as a parent, as a business owner, as a friend. I mean, everything. Like my sister has a massive impact on all of that.
Yes. And then I know we already touched upon it briefly, but you were 15 when you did your first documentary film project, and it was on your sister.
Yes.
It was on your sister, and you're a storyteller. So I think that she played a huge role in the fact that you have grown to love storytelling, and she was the first story that you told. That was it. Pretty so special. You fell in love with storytelling then. But with that, I also wanted to touch upon having a sister, a family member with special needs that you're so close with. And being also the oldest. Now I'm learning that you're the oldest, not only just like in your immediate family, but in your extended. I'm the baby. So,
Yeah.
and even in my extended family, I'm the baby. So did you feel like you had to take on that caretaker role? Like you helped and you assisted?
1,000%.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
I even see it now with my daughter because I have an 11-year-old daughter and an 8-month-old son. And I see, like, my daughter and I are so much alike, you know, but I see her being 11. I'm like, damn. I remember those days.
Oh,
like,
I know.
You know what I mean? Because I was the ringleader. I was the caretaker. Like,
I see that in Kaden too, and I haven't even met her personally.
Yeah. It is in the blood for sure. But I was proud. Like, I took a lot of pride in it, and I never saw anything like as a burden. There were situations. I mean, I feel like any like preteen or high school, you know, female could probably say that they've gone through this like dramatic, like emo time of their teen years. And I'm
going through one right now.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, shit. We still go through them.
Yes.
Let's be honest. But I do remember like holding some grudges and resentment against like my mom and like my parents. And, you know, like especially with my sister, like there were certain situations where I'm like, why does a responsibility fall on me?
Yeah.
I'm fucking 15 years old. Like, I should not be doing this, you know, this and that. I did not see, and I'm sure we'll get into this part of like life and conversation later, but I did not see silver linings back then. I saw everything. I was like in full blown. That's when like the victim mentality kicked off.
Yep.
You know, and it's very easy to get like stuck in that swirl of like you are the victim of every situation you're in until you go through certain situations that like literally kick you in the ass.
And you're
to
like,
say,
wait a second,
hold
I
on
actually
a second.
had it good.
And
like,
actually,
wait.
everything that I've experienced in my life has set me up. Like everything, honestly, as cliche as you want to think that this phrase is, literally everything happens to you for a reason. It doesn't happen to you, it happens for you.
Yeah.
And if you have that perspective and that mentality, your life and the way you show up to it is going to be so much more liberated and enjoyable. And I really didn't like see that spark of that perspective until like my late 20s. It took me in my eyes, it took me a good amount of time to get there.
Yeah.
But when you do see it and you feel it for the first time, it's like, oh my God, there it is.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yep. I know. Yeah, you have those like little aha moments. But I always say too, I think that I almost feel like we need to go to school later in life when we actually like appreciate the lessons. Yeah. You know, like when you actually appreciate the lessons, you're like, oh gosh, like, I mean, if I was just in college, like at 30, I would have been getting so much more out of it than when I was like 20, just because you're in this kind of self-centered mentality where the world revolves around you because the only thing that matters are your feelings. And then even like all the things around you, you think it's happening because of you.
Yeah.
And that's when kind of, you know, you start to, you know, develop these theories about you know what life is about and you know how
and your
you
own
fit
little
into
narratives.
And hopefully those narratives are good narratives, but if they're bad narratives, it's really hard to break that. So you came from, so it was a mixed family, so you kind of had a mixed family, but your parents did they remain married?
So no, we moved around quite a bit when I was young. I always like would tell, this is part of like my victim like mode, I would tell the story, like my family moved me around 7 times.
I was an army brat.
6. Yeah.
You're like, no.
I'm like, no. So we moved around quite a bit when I was young, and it's not like we were a military family or anything. My dad was a stockbroker, and my mom like took care of us. And so, but we did move around quite a bit, and we landed in Phoenix when I was 7. And when we landed in Phoenix, I think there was just this energetic something that happened with like in our family dynamic. My mom and my dad went through some really like challenging times, which ended up breaking them apart, which honestly was probably for the best.
Yeah.
Like, they both were like using alcohol, like in a very unhealthy way. So they both got sober around that time too. Here in Arizona. Yeah. It's great. I mean, like everybody's journey, you know, is different. And but I do remember like being 7 years old, like that's kind of when your memories like really start to sink in.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, the very first time, And every time I hike Camelback, like I always have this memory, and I'm like, damn it, Mom, you tainted Camelback for me.
I mean, I hate hiking, so Camelback has already been tainted for me. I'm not a fan.
The very first time I hiked Camelback was with my mom, and she took me up just a little bit of the way, and we sat down on that mountain, and that's when she told me that she and my dad were getting divorced.
Oh God!
And I was like, I don't even know
and
like
then you
what
have
that
to
means.
Hike back down.
Yeah,
with that
but
information.
honestly, like I didn't really know what it meant. I was like, okay, so what does this mean? Like I didn't know how to process it, you know?
Yeah.
But it was that I remember it was then there was like a shift, and you know, from there it was like, as you can imagine, anybody that's been a child that's gone through divorce, like there's a lot of emotion, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of questioning. My dad was like manic bipolar. So that in itself was just like a big question mark of like, okay, who's he going to be today? You know? And I think that like I reminded him so much of my mom, and obviously he had a lot of like negative energy around his relationship with my mom.
That's so hard. And that's so common.
That was a challenge. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, there's a lot.
So 7 years old, you're confronted with this. And I will say, and I think I touched upon it in my most recent episode, where when you are that young, children crave stability more than ever. So coming from like an unstable environment and not knowing the environment that you were going to walk into, it's very traumatizing. So I just wanted to like kind of just let you know, like I feel you on that. And that's really, really hard.
Yeah.
And you know, I know you keep on referring to my dad was. Are you comfortable sharing about what happened with your dad?
For sure. Yeah. So my dad, like I said before, he was manic bipolar. He struggled so much. And I know there's so much that happened in his lifetime that he never like did the work on, you know?
It was not normalized to do the work.
No, not at all.
I mean, it's not. Yeah.
Not at all. And he would go through, you know, he had like all these medications that he would take, and then he'd feel really good. So he'd stop taking them, and then he would go through one of his episodes again. And let me tell you, my dad was like the like freaking life of the party, like biggest personality. He was a big dude, like physically, but he was the biggest personality. Like everyone loved Wayne. Like he was hilarious, like just had this really big, vibrant spirit. But a lot of people with this mental disorder are like that. You know, when they are on, everyone loves them, they're so charismatic, and then when they go through their lows, it's like
highs,
nobody it is so extreme. Like he was in his cave, he would like gain a ton of weight, I mean you just never really knew like what you were going to get with him. And I think that was the hardest part at my age, like growing up with that. It was like hard to know what to expect. And so it would always kind of be like on eggshells a little bit.
Yeah.
Because like one week he'd be my biggest fan. He was like my softball coach, and we'd have these like amazing bonding moments together. And then the next week he's like telling me to kick rocks, you know, and like wants nothing to do with me, you know. And so that was just interesting in itself. But when I was in 8th grade, my I love my mom to death. I'm sure she's listening to this podcast.
I have to preface all the time. I talk about my parents, and I'm like,
oh
they're great. They did the best they could.
No, but literally, I mean, honestly, like my mom, I don't give her enough credit because, and here's where the tears are going to come through, because I mean, now being a mom myself, I look at like her journey and I'm like, holy shit, how did she do it?
How?
You know? So like definitely need to preface that. Like, I think I can't only speak for myself, but there are definitely moments where I like hold resentment or like these emotions around her, but then I like check myself and I'm like, damn, my mom's a human being too.
Yeah.
Like I feel like we put these like our parents on a pedestal and we forget that they're human too.
It's their first time on earth as well.
Yes. But I say all of that because this is again like part of my victim like story when I was a teenager.
No, it's not victim.
I know.
It's not.
But my spring break of 8th grade, like she wouldn't even let me graduate with my friends. She moved us all the way across the country to North Carolina. Oh, Mom. I know, because she wanted to start this business with her sister, and she wanted to start this like cafe business, and my aunt was living in North Carolina at the time. So spring break of 8th grade, we get in a car, we drive out to North Carolina. I finish my middle school years there, and I live in North Carolina my freshman year of high school.
such a hard time to move.
Weird. It was a
Eighth
weird
grade
time.
going into freshman year moving.
Tell me about, I mean, like, talk about transition and like trying to adapt to a new environment when you just feel awkward as fuck. Like,
Oh my
that's,
God, I know. You're
that
just
was
trying
me.
to figure it out.
Yeah, exactly.
I know you want to throw this curveball at me. Thanks, Mom.
Yeah, exactly.
Ugh.
So anyway, we moved to North Carolina, and right when I started my freshman year, I could tell my dad was like going through it. Like he started dating this woman who lived in Beverly Hills, and he ended up moving in with her, and we went to visit him there like over the summer before I started.
So your parents were separated when she moved to North Carolina.
Yeah, they had already been divorced for
7 years old.
for
Yes.
years. So then, like, when we started school, my dad would come out like once a month, and he came out a couple of times, and it was November because it was like right around that Veterans Day weekend, holiday weekend, and he came out to visit us, and there was just something about, I mean, he was just like, I've never seen him like so at peace. Like, he had lost all this weight, like, and he just looked good, and he looked at peace, and we had the most amazing weekend, which was weird. It was weird because I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like,
Waiting
this
for
is
the
not
ball to
normal.
drop.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, when is like the next episode gonna happen here? Because like, this is not normal. But he really was. He was at peace, and now knowing, you know, with where he was in his headspace and his mentality, it kind of makes sense. But we had an amazing weekend together, and then he flew back to Beverly Hills the day before Veterans Day, and on Veterans Day, you know, didn't have school, it was a day off, and I had this like urge, like pit in my stomach. I never called him because he would call us every single day. I was like, I never need to call him, you know, and I had this pit in my stomach. I'm like, I feel like I need to call my dad. Like, I hadn't felt that like ever. And it was like later that, actually it wasn't until the next morning, my mom came in right when I woke up, and she said, Carly, your dad's been shot, is how she told me. So my dad ended up taking his life. But the crazy thing, and like not many people know this, but what was so fucking crazy is that when he did it, and so I say that story about me like wanting to call him because I think he did it around like that same time that I had that urge of calling him, because I did call him and he didn't pick up the phone. And so what happened was he did that. He shot himself, and the paramedics, I guess someone had heard something, called the police, and they got there so fast that when they broke in, because he had everything like closed off, barricaded or whatever, but when they got in, he was still breathing. So by law, they had to put him on life support. And I think that was the hardest part. And like, part of me also wonders too, because he was like a very impulsive person. Like, part of me wonders if in that like millisecond of a moment, like he had to like, should I do this type thing, you know? But who knows? I mean, like, that's not the story. You know, the story is like he did what he did, but by law, they had to put him on life support. So my older sister, she was the only one that was over 18 at the time of, you know, his kids. So she had to be the one to make the decision to let him go. And so there was a whole day where we were like, what the fuck? Like, you know, trying to just process what just happened. And then I remember my sister calling me that day, and she's like, I don't know what to do, Carly. Like I don't want to be responsible for doing this. And I remember telling her, and like she might be listening to this too, but I remember telling her so vividly, I'm like, this is what he wanted. You know, so like, he doesn't want to be a fucking vegetable here on earth anymore. Like, he was ready like to go. And so I think, you know, it's time to let him go type thing. So yeah, that was crazy.
I know that we're recording. I just want to like reach over and just like give you the biggest hug. It's heartbreaking. And I think I think when people commit suicide, it is impulsive. I think that, you know, there it does take moments of just feeling complete despair. And I can't even imagine what it's like being at war with yourself every day.
Yeah.
Being at war with yourself every day seems like a prison.
And that's like the perspective of like, you know, I've had so many waves of grief, and it's been so many years, you know, so I feel like so comfortable talking about it, but there were so many years where I couldn't. But honestly, reflecting on that and trying to put myself in his shoes of like, man, I cannot imagine what was going through his head to get to a point where he was like just ready to
Fed up.
end it. You know,
especially because you said you had seen him and he seemed so good.
Well, he was at peace because he knew his time was here.
So you knew that.
Now looking back, I'm
back,
like, he knew. And I think he was finally at peace because I really do like wholeheartedly feel a weight was lifted because he knew he was no longer going to be here anymore and have to deal with everything that he was dealing with inside his head, whatever that may be.
I mean, I just know dealing with, because I mean, I've battled with depression.
Yeah.
And just being so upset that your mind's not working properly. And then also just seeing other people around you functioning and just being so irritated with yourself. So manic depressive, bipolar, like I couldn't even imagine. I couldn't even imagine. So are you in 8th grade at this point?
So that was actually right at the beginning of my freshman year of high school.
Beginning of freshman year.
Yeah.
So you were in North Carolina.
Yeah. And like had
So
made
far
all
away.
these new friends, like didn't even know where my place was, you know, like my mom was so busy like starting this new business and stuff. It's like life just looked like it was very weird and awkward. And it honestly, like we talk about it all the time, like with my family, it's honestly like that year, little over a year that we had in North Carolina, like it was a dream. Like it was just a big blur. You know what I mean? Because then we ended up moving back to Phoenix, summer going into sophomore year, and my mom.
So quickly after.
Yeah, it was quickly after, and my mom ended up getting remarried to someone that she had been, you know, dating before we left, but they had split, and then when we moved back, they got back together and ended up getting remarried, which that's a whole nother story we don't have to get into. But
it's okay.
You know, it's just like family dynamics, you know, it's like all such a journey. But that was definitely a monumental moment, obviously, in my life and in my family's life that really, again, just like we were talking about earlier, opened up massive perspective.
Yeah.
I would never, ever, ever wish anybody to experience that in their life. But if there's any type of silver lining that I can share from that experience, it was like, I mean, fucking talk about like a massive perspective opener for me. Like massive.
Perspective as in like life is not guaranteed.
Oh, yeah. Well, and just looking at life in a different lens, having sympathy, you know, I mean, honestly, I didn't know anything about mental health before all of this. I didn't even know anything about bipolar. Like, I didn't know anything was wrong with my dad until this happened. Yeah. So it opened up
you're
this
also
like,
so young. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. But it opened up so many opportunities for conversations that really allowed for me to be more understanding and sympathetic to everybody around me too, you know? So yeah, you know, just crazy.
So shifting, I just want to end this part of the conversation with this. I'm a very spiritual person, and I do believe in reincarnation, and I believe in signs and symbols. Is there anything that you experience in like day-to-day life where you're like, oh, that's my dad?
It's a hummingbird.
It's a hummingbird.
100%.
Girl.
It is. I actually went and saw a medium for the very first time like 2 weeks ago.
How was
Which is
it?
crazy. It was, it honestly like it left me wanting more.
Oh, I know.
thing.
It does. It's addictive.
It is. I'm like, wow, okay, what's next? You know?
I know.
But it's funny because like my grandfather was coming in more than my dad was, but it was reassured to me that like he sends hummingbirds my way. And so that was definitely reassuring.
That's so beautiful. Yeah. Every single time I see a hummingbird, I'm gonna think of you and Wayne now.
Oh, yeah.
Oh gosh,
he's a great guy, and you know, I know he's there. I know what's wild too is my son, who I've talked about earlier. He's now 8 months old, but he was born on my dad's birthday.
No, I had no idea that Copper was born on your dad's birthday.
Yeah, my dad would have been 77, and honestly, like
Girl.
I know. Like, so talk about some energy around there. I'm like, yeah, I feel my dad. Like, I feel him. Like, I know he's here, and I know like his big goofy spirit is like surrounding us, and like I can see him, and you know, like my son and my brother, and like, you know, I just know he's there. He never will. Like he always will
Well,
be.
we are the legacy. Well, you are the legacy, and Copper. Everyone in the family tree that comes after Wayne is his legacy.
Yeah, thanks.
Girl.
Like, damn it, why didn't we bring tissues in
It's
here?
okay. This is why we have shackets
Yeah.
and sweaters. But so fast forward. So growing up, obviously with this major trauma of losing your dad.
Yeah.
And then also seeing your mom date. You know, I think I could never imagine watching my mom date.
That was awkward.
Right? Witnessing this, how do you feel like losing your dad, but being in an environment where you were walking on eggshells? I know from my personal experience, when you become accustomed to that feeling, you become insanely empathic because you have to be in order to survive. You have to be able to dictate and predetermine other people's emotions in order for you to figure out who you need to be in order to create an equilibrium. So fast forward to young Carly, whether it's high school or college, how did that affect your dating life? How did that affect your relationship with men?
I would say that I feel like I kind of, first of all, I really did not know who the fuck I was.
Yeah. Well, when you're constantly trying to like make everyone around you.
I was trying to be everyone.
Yeah.
Like I literally was trying to be everyone. Even like anybody that I knew in high school would probably describe me as like the person that like was literally like I was a chameleon. Like I was in the party like crew, and I also was like running cross country and super athletic, and then I also was like hanging out with the preppy girls, and that, you know, like I was like, I wanted to just like be peace with everyone.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be this chameleon, and I ended up like being fucking prom queen. You know, it's
Girl,
like those things like
homecoming
that.
court.
I know. I'm like, oh my gosh, I think about it now. I'm like, oh my God. But I think it was because of
This
that.
is what you
because,
become, homecoming queen. This is it.
But no, I think it was because I just like, I wanted to make peace with everyone. I think I had this like underlying fear of like, oh my God, like it honestly is abandonment, really, because like I lost my dad by suicide, and so I had this like fear that wound. And so that trickled into relationships too. Like I felt like every relationship I was in, I was like, okay, when is something gonna happen that's gonna totally fuck this up?
Yep.
And honestly, to a point where I would like literally manifest the fucking up.
The self-sabotage?
The self-sabotage was like my middle name.
Yeah. No, well, it's the anxious attachment when you that roots that comes from abandonment. And also just the strong desire to be loved and to be seen.
Yeah. Oh, that was me to a T.
Yeah. No, I feel you. Same girl. Like we're the same breed.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yep.
So with that, I know from my personal experience that attracted the wrong men in my life.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there's something about that where you see a girl who not only like any man would be proud to have you on their arm, right? Like they see that, but also on top of that, they can sense like, oh, she's a giver.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going to exploit the shit out of that.
Yeah.
Did you find yourself in relationships
for
where was it like a pattern for you?
Oh, 1,000%.
Yeah.
Like you totally hit the nail on the head, because it was a pattern, and it's almost like I would put them like, it's like I entered their world.
Oh, God. I'm the chosen one. The light.
The chosen one.
It's like an alien abduction. The light comes down and it sucks you up, but you're like so grateful.
And I'm like, I'm so like here to serve you type thing. And honestly, I think back on it, and it's like, and we've talked about this many times before. Again, many years, many moments in my life have fell in the space of victimhood and like, oh, that fucker, like how could he do this and that, like so many situations I would point the finger when really it's, and I'll kind of expand on this if we want to go there, but I had like 4 solid years of like massive, intense, very hardest time period of my life, like inner work that I had to go through after like a certain relationship that really exposed a lot about myself that I needed to understand and work through to say, hold on a second. Carly, you have had a part in every single situation, every single relationship. You have literally invited that into your life for a reason, to teach you something about yourself. And it's up to you to make the change for yourself if you want something different. So you're the only person in control.
You flip the script.
Of changing the type of relationship you want in your life. And it took me many years and many relationships to get there. But when you do see that, honestly, and we talked about it earlier too, it's like there is no more liberating feeling than to recognize I have the power. I have the choice. I have the control to make a change. And that is so liberating. So it takes a lot of work to get there, though.
Oh yeah, it does.
No
and it
easy
takes
street,
also,
honey.
and sometimes it doesn't take just one mistake.
Oh no,
it takes a couple,
and we're probably still doing it.
You know,
this is life.
It's life, and I'd like to say that I'm going to stop repeating that pattern, but there are, it's really hard to unlearn what you've been programmed to be. It's really hard to do that. So I think too, so rewinding back, that rock bottom relationship that like just sent it over to the edge, that really was like your wake up call. Can you go a little bit more into depth into like what your life looked like getting into that relationship? Because I think that that's like really important to talk about. Like, what were you going through? Like, what did your life look like? Because I think that that's the reason why people fall victim to these types of situations.
So
like, what have you learned in your healing journey?
Oh my gosh, 100%. I'm like, how much freaking time do we have?
We're going to probably go over an hour.
I know. I'm like trying to condense the story here.
We don't want to.
I know. But I will say, and I don't think we even touched on like when I got pregnant with Caden, because that was a big part of like the journey and the shift for me, or like the start of like this massive evolution, which I think all of us experience in our 20s. But it was like, it really hit extreme for me because I got pregnant my last semester of college unexpectedly. Best blessing of my life. Like, I talk about this with my mom, honestly, like all the time. Like, my daughter saved my life. Like, she really, really did. Like, that honestly was God's greatest gift that I could not be more grateful for. But at the time, I was like 22.
I couldn't
no
imagine,
fucking
Carly.
idea what I was doing with my life. About to bring another human being that I'm responsible for. Like, I have zero business doing this. Like, I cannot even take care of myself. Why am I about to bring another human being into this world? Like, I couldn't wrap my brain around it. But
and you were a single mom, from what I understood.
You know what?
You had
her
help,
dad. Her dad, he's amazing human being. I love him to death. Like, he is the father of my amazing daughter, and I'm so grateful for that. But he was like young and dumb. He was like a surfer bro, like from Hawaii, and like
we're already delayed as it is.
And honestly, bless his heart, because he was scared too. And he didn't know how, like, he had his own perspective and journey, and how he was kind of dealing with the surprise of the news that we had at a very young age. And so, but I knew my entire pregnancy, like, okay, I'm prepping myself because I know I'm going to be a single mom type situation. So when she was born, he was there, like, for the first few months. But then I think we both realized, like, okay, this is really toxic. Like, we're going to have to figure out how to co-parent, and we should probably do it now. So she was like about 4 months old.
That's brilliant that you guys were able
to. It was not easy though. Like, I say it like that, but it was not. Like, it was very ugly, for many years. Because again, we were young, immature, stupid. Like, we had no idea what we were doing. But it was that point where, like, okay, we need to figure out how to co-parent. And I'm glad that we did, because honestly, like, Caden, her whole life has just known mom and dad. And he lived, and he moved back to California, and he lived in California for
because you're in Long Beach.
That's where I was going to college, but moved back here, and she was born here in Phoenix. But yes, so I basically was raising her solo here in Phoenix. She would visit him on like breaks and things like that for long periods of times, but like her, core, her school, her community, everything was here, and it was just her and I for many, many, many years. And I say all of that because the first few years of her life, when I was like navigating, like, okay, I'm in my early mid-20s now, like, I'm trying to figure out who I am, but also like so responsible for another human being that it like spiraled like really fast.
Well, you're trying
and
to
really
keep it
hard.
together, and you have now gone on like the fast track of growing up.
And it spiraled in like a very like dark, scary space. And that's when I was like inviting relationships into my life and like people into my life that just intensified that for me. And so it got to my, like, I would say one of the biggest like breaking points and lowest points in my life was experiencing situations in this time period where I just like literally would wake up in the morning, look at myself in the mirror and say, Carly, like this is not you. Like, this is not who you want to be. This is not, and honestly, it was intensified because now at this time I had like this 3-year-old girl looking up at me, like literally looking up to me. And I'm like, fuck, you need to change. You need to do something different. And so at that time.
So much pressure.
Oh, yeah.
So much pressure.
It is. No, it is. But honestly, it's like one of those things now looking back on it, it was like a very challenging moment in my life. But I needed to have those challenges. Again, it goes back to like you invite people, you invite situations in your life for a reason because you need to experience those challenges in order to grow through them.
Yeah.
And so for me, what I started like going to alcohol. And I think knowing that both of my parents abused alcohol, like they both were sober, I just had this narrative in my mind that like, you have an alcohol problem because it's in your DNA type thing.
Oh, so you just were like,
So
this is me.
This is me. And I was making choices I was not proud of. I was like literally piling the shame on top of me. And then so I would drink and drink and drink to just like numb it all away.
No, you have to. Well, I mean, and not rightfully so, because obviously we can't turn to alcohol, but this is why people numb though.
Yeah.
You had so much going on. So you were trying to escape.
I was trying to escape. And that's when, and I knew I was abusing it. Not that I had a problem with it. I didn't know what the fuck I had. I didn't even know who the fuck I was, like, honestly. But I knew that I was numbing myself. And I knew if I wanted to make a change, like a serious change in my life, to change who I am, I had to cut that out. So I stopped drinking for 4 years.
Good for you.
For 4 years. And I did intense internal work. And I found myself like injecting myself in rooms of people that I knew were going to hold me accountable and that I knew were going to throw that mirror up and say, and that's, I think I referenced it earlier. There was one woman that I met who was like, you know, every time you point the finger, Carly, you've got 3 fingers pointing back at you. So you might want to look in the mirror and see what your part is in this situation.
Yeah.
So it was like I had to have like all these hard conversations for a good stretch of time in my life to really say, hold on, I can make a change. Like I have the ability to do that. But it's not going to be easy.
No.
But like I have to do it in order to like see a different outcome for my life and what I want for my life. So
I get it. And I mean, even with my situation, it was like as much as I was angry at all these people that had done terrible things to me, and I have the right to still be angry. I mean, I do, like they did wrong.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I know that I was in that position. I put myself within those relationships because I was also numbing out. I was just numbing out in a different way.
Yeah.
I was numbing out with my eating disorder. I was numbing out with Adderall because I just needed to continue to produce.
yeah.
And I think that a lot of situations that we all find ourselves in, it's usually comes from a space of we had no awareness of how bad it was because we were so out of touch with reality.
Yep.
We were so out of touch with reality because reality was so hard at the time. So fast forward, you have done the hard work. You were sober for 4 years.
Yeah.
You have mended your relationship with alcohol, your relationship with yourself. What was the big thing that, I know you did meditation. I know you probably did therapy, but like, what was the most helpful tool that, if you could share with anyone listening who is figured out that they have a pattern of bad relationships, like what was the thing that helped you break that pattern? Was it just mostly self-reflection?
I would say what helped me the most and I talked about this earlier too, is the accountability piece.
Yeah.
Like being comfortable enough to have uncomfortable conversations with people that I knew were going to call me out on my shit.
Yeah.
And like being real enough with them to say, this is the situation I'm in. This is how I'm feeling. This is what I'm going through. This is my perspective. Like, what do you think? And of course, like taking everything with a grain of salt, because at the end of the day, like you have to be the one to make the choice that's best for your life. And like nobody can have control over that but yourself. I think what I realized in like that 4 years where I really just like had to get clean and clear with my thoughts because they were so like clouded with just like, oh, it was so messy. I think the biggest like aha moments that I had was I have to surround myself with people that I want to be more like.
Yeah.
I have to surround myself with people that are living a life that I want to live. And I have to be real enough with them to say, how the fuck do I get here? You know what I mean? Like, what do I need to do? And I have one friend who actually we know Harmony was like one of the first influences.
Her today.
Did you really?
I did. She's teaching yoga at Underground.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Great.
But she and I connected like when I was in my deep part of like right after Caden was born and I was like in this real thick like heavy space. There's something like I don't know what she saw in me, but she's like, I'm gonna teach you how to meditate. I'm gonna teach you how to sit with yourself and your thoughts. And there was so many moments where she texts me and she says, hey, what are you grateful for today? And I could not think of one fucking thing to say. Not a single thing to be grateful for. But she was so consistent with me and persistent in saying, I'm going to ask you every single day until you get in this habit.
Harmony has like an ability to be so like assertive.
Oh yeah.
And like
she's
a
intense.
very like mama. I call her mama bear.
Yeah. She's intense. And I like that.
Me too.
Because I know I need that. I need someone intense to be like, to call me out on my shit and hold me accountable.
Help me be better.
Yeah, because, and I'm just so grateful for her and people like her who, you know, have been such a massive influence in my life because, but honestly, again, it comes back to you. Like I had to be open enough and willing enough to invite that in and to maintain it, to say, I need you in my life, you know, like, because you really are like, you're my saving grace because you're holding me accountable to show up to life the way that I know I need to show up in order to be the person that I want to be. Yeah. And it's still a practice.
Yeah.
Like I find myself, but here's the thing. And here's one of the biggest aha moments that I had in those 4 years of like deep self-discovery is finding the awareness and the understanding of like what my tendencies are, what my habits are, what things trigger me, what thing, you know, like, because I do even recently in the relationship I'm in now, which is amazing. I look at Nick, my boyfriend, and I'm like, I honestly, Tessa, like I think back and I honestly still have all of my journals.
Oh, I love it.
And I think back and how many moments I've had scribbling in those pages, like just writing and wishing and dreaming of this like life that I like really prayed about having, with pages that are like literally crusted because they're full of my tears. Oh. Like, I mean, honestly, I look at Nick and I look at, you know, just I'm so fucking grateful because I know that what I have today is what I prayed for and what I dreamed of having.
You worked for it.
Worked really hard. But honestly, that, I guess what I'm trying to say is like, I believe so much in the power of manifestation, but even more than just like dreaming, oh, I'm going to win the lottery. One day I'm going to have a mansion. And it's more than that. It's more like you really have to believe and feel and like visualize what it is you want in life. And the more you do that, the more you're going to start to make baby step choices every single day. Whether it's having different conversations, whether it's showing up to different places, whether it's putting yourself in different rooms, whether it's accepting different types of jobs, whatever it may be. Yeah. The more you get clear on the vision of what you want in your life, the easier it's going to get to take those baby steps, baby choices to get you there. Yeah. And I'm literally a walking proof of that. Like, walking proof.
You got fed up and then you made a change.
Massive,
but
massive
sometimes
change.
You have to be like just so beyond.
Slapped, like literally thrown on the ground. Like you have to have a massive like wake up call, you know, to get you to that point.
Yeah. And then all while you're healing and all while you're making these changes, you're crying in your journals, which I'm all too familiar with. You're growing a business.
Yeah.
So I think that it's important to touch upon the balance of personal and business. Like, how were you able
What is
to
balance?
I don't
What
I'm
does
still
that
trying
mean,
to
Tessa?
balance as in you're not going crazy.
Oh, I go crazy a lot though.
Oh, okay. You're right. Maybe we need to look into what balance is.
No, but I think it's different for everybody.
No,
like
yeah.
that definition is different for everyone.
It totally is. But
Yeah.
I just like I see you, and I think and everyone sees you as, oh, this powerhouse that is a woman in film, that is a CEO. And there's a lot of women who have big dreams. And I know, like for me, when I was going through all my stuff, running a business was so challenging.
Yeah.
Which is probably why, you know, it didn't grow in the way that I wanted it to, because I was trying to figure out my own stuff. So what would you tell a girl, anyone, that is trying to run a business, trying to chase after a dream while healing at the same time? I know that's a hard question.
No,
I also personally want to know.
Yes, I know. Well, honestly, I can hands down say, like, you're literally setting yourself up for success. Like you really are. And honestly, I say this because, and again, this is like only my perspective, but I will tell you that the biggest challenges in my life have given me the greatest rewards. And that's in personal life, that's in business. That's like every aspect of my life. Like I can wholeheartedly say every single challenge has set me up for massive success and a massive stepping stone to the next place that I want to be in my business and in my, you know, personal life, whatever it may be. So, what advice I would give is use that fuel, like use that as momentum.
A headwind and turn it into a tailwind.
Yeah. Oh my God. I love that.
Right?
I love it.
It's not mine. I stole it.
Honey, I'm glad you did.
Yes, no, but
we need to print that out because that's exactly it.
Yeah.
Use that as your power. And again, it's like I feel like Brittany says this often too, and like speaking like your perspective really is your reality, and we do have a choice in how we can think about the situations that we're in. And I don't know. For me, it was like any time I was in a pit, I'm like, okay, this is giving me more fuel, more fire. Let's fucking go.
Pain
like
to power.
Pain to power. Like this is giving me more motivation to say, watch me fucking do it. You know?
Oh, yes. I feel like that's a beautiful place to end it. Unless there's anything else you want to share with the Dear Sunny listeners.
Honestly, Tessa, I'm just really grateful to have this conversation.
Me too. This has been incredible. I don't want it to end, but we're on a time constraint.
Yes, I know. Well, and I can't wait to listen to, you know, future episodes too, because the space that you're holding for so many women is something quite remarkable.
Thank
and
you.
I just know how much impact you're making on so many lives that you're probably not even aware of. So
thank you.
It's an honor to be here and to share this space with you. So thank you for having me on.
I love you. Thank you so much.
I love you.
You're the best. Okay, well, you have it, guys. Carly Gilleland. Damn. So good.